tell me what that means. And is picky. Very good. I like that you say picky because you're right. It has to be the intersection of both. Very good. Thank you. So what would I do here to solve? First step. Divide both sides by 4. I have x is less than or equal to 3. Very good. And over here I divide by. And what do I need to do?
Flip the sign.
Good. Way to go. How many of you remember to flip the sign? Nice job. So we have x is equal to, or greater than or equal to -3. Then we'll graph each of those. So I'm going to do this one first. So we have x is less than or equal to 3. So equal to means closed circle. Less than is going to be down this way, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then, let's do a different color. With this one, we're doing x is greater than or equal to -3. So closed circle and this way, right?
Yep.
So the only answer we keep is from here to here because it's the intersection of those both. Okay, awesome. So you tell me what would the answer have been if I changed this to or? Very good. It would be all real numbers. Either or gets to come, so everything that way got to come, everything that way got to come. Does that make sense on the difference, guys? Because I'm going to ask. Okay, awesome. Way to go. Way to remember that. How many of you got 100% right? Good. Okay, let's move on to what we're doing today in hopes that we have no homework. So today is kind of it's kind of a review day because we should have learned this in secondary math 1. We should have reviewed this in secondary math 2. And in secondary math 3, we just have to be pros at it because you're going to see it in a more applied, advanced way. So we're going to be dealing with linear functions in slope-intercept form today. So really, you really should be pretty good at this stuff. Okay, so first of all, I just kind of want to get into a little bit more depth with what slope means and whatnot. Because when we're in middle school or in our first few years of math, you kind of don't understand what it really is. You just kind of say, okay, it's the rise over the run. But you need to understand kind of the math behind it at this point. So first of all, the slope of a non-vertical line. So non-vertical. So vertical would be this, right? No, that's, vertical, right? Vertical. So the slope of a non-vertical line. So the slope of a non-vertical line is the ratio of the vertical change to the horizontal change. So it's a ratio of vertical over horizontal. And that's between 2 points. So we have this point right here, and we have this point right here. If we want to know the slope, we're looking at the vertical change over the horizontal change. So you can calculate the slope by finding the ratio, or the ratio of the difference of the y-coordinates to the difference of the x-coordinates. So you take, that's where the formula comes from, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, how many of you hear the saying, you know the saying as rise over run? And that's fine, but hopefully you're understanding that you're right, it is the rise over the run, but we're looking at the vertical change divided by the horizontal change. Okay, so once again, where the formula comes from, y2 minus y1 is equal to x2 minus x1 we know that's our formula for slope. And we just use that, which is fine, but just keep in mind what you're technically doing is the vertical change, the rise, over the horizontal change, which is the run. All right, so can anyone tell me this little thing that they throw in? So it says where x2 minus x1 cannot equal 0. Why? Why can't x2 minus x1 equal 0? Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. If x2 minus x1 was 0, wouldn't we have a 0 in the denominator? You're right, Dylan. Very good. Thank you. So we cannot have a 0 in the denominator, so we throw that in there at this level. Okay, so really, we're just going to practice that. Here we go. Pretty easy stuff, guys. So it says, what's the slope of the line that passes through the given points? So we have these two xy points, right? So if we were to just rough sketch this, we're looking at -3 up 7, and we're looking at -2 up 4. So, from left to right, what's my first point? From left to right, what is the point that comes first, guys? -3, 7. And then we get our second point, which is this. So, this is my first point, this is my second point. Now remember, points are x comma y. So we have an xy point. We have an xy point. Well, this is our first point. So I'm going to call that x1, y1. Those little ones, I don't know, at the first year they threw people off, but that just means that's our first point. That's just our first x. That's our first y. And this is x2 minus x2, y2. This is our second point. Is everybody good at that? Finding the slopes, just literally that easy. You have to know the formula. So it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Plugging it in carefully, we have 4 minus 7, right, everybody? y2 minus y1, 4 minus 7 over negative 2 minus x2 minus x1 minus negative 3. I expect you at this level to not make errors here. To not make negative errors, to not make sign errors, just to be really precise. So what's 4 minus 3? 4 minus negative 7, guys. Sorry about that. Negative 3. And then we have negative 2 minus negative 3. So isn't that minus a negative? Becomes a negative 2 plus 3. 1. So what's my slope? Negative 3 over 1, which is just negative 3. Questions on how to do that? Okay. We do 1 through 8. So a couple of things to know. So this is a positive slope, right? It makes sense, guys. If we were to walk up that hill, walk up that line, we'd be walking uphill, right? So, and you always look, here's the thing, guys. You always look with your eyes from left to right. So once again, if we look from left to right, we'd be walking uphill. It's a positive slope. From left to right, boom, we slide down. So this is a negative slope. And this is considered a 0 slope. So this is a line with 0 slope. So notice, so a horizontal line has 0 slope. Now this is what, if you were, so this is what your line would look like on, when you got number 7, you got the slope was 0, guys. This is what your line would look like if you were to graph it. Now, if you get undefined, you would have had a graph that looks like this. So everybody, now some people, and even I kind of caught myself just a second ago thinking to myself, well, why is this a 0 slope and this isn't? And then I thought, oh, makes sense. Is this a function? Does this pass the vertical line test? For every x value, is there exactly one y value? No, doesn't this x value have a million y values? So it's not a function. So that's why this one is undefined. Does that make sense, everybody? Everybody's good? Okay, awesome. Okay. So obviously a function whose graph is a line is a linear function. You can represent a function with a linear equation. So if we have a linear function, we obviously can write a linear equation. They have the form y equals, this is an example, y equals 6x minus 4. A line looks like that. A solution of a linear equation can be any order pair that makes the equation true. So once again, we usually like to look at lines. We always like to look at lines in slope-intercept form, so we always write lines in slope-intercept form. Now, an intercept of a line is a point where the line crosses an axis. So right here, this is an x-intercept. It crosses the x-axis right there. It's a y-intercept. It's crossing the y-axis right there. It just makes sense. Sorry, I'm just reading this here. Okay, that's all I want to make. We're just getting familiar with lines, which we should already know. Okay, so once again, the slope-intercept form of an equation of a line is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. We're all familiar with this, right? This is the slope, this is the y-intercept. So you have to know, y equals mx plus b is the form of a line. It's how we write the equation of a line. M is the slope, b is the y-intercept. So here's my first example. It says, what is the equation of this line? So what's the equation of this line? So we're given m is equal to 1/5, and the y-intercept is 0, -3. Okay, so it's crossing the y-axis at -3. Okay, so keep that in mind. Well, we know lines have the form y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope. So what am I going to put in for m? 1/5. So we have y is equal to 1/5 x, and then b is the y-intercept. Where is it crossing the y-axis? So -3. This is the equation of the line that fits this criteria. Pretty easy, right? Right? Okay. Questions? Okay. So also do 9 through 14. Work hard. And then with 13 and 14, I need you to write the equation of the line as well. So you're going up through the whole front page right now. And on 13 and 14, I need you to go as far as to write the equation of the line. Ready, set, go. Okay? So please be with me on these so that you are good to go. So it says, write the equation in slope-intercept form. Now the reason we want to, and you know what? On our end of level test, you will see lines. And they will never give it to you in slope-intercept form. Because at our level, you have to be able to look at that and say, I see that that is linear. Is our x value degree 1? Yes, so that is linear. I need to be able to write it in slope-intercept form by myself. So they will never give you a line in slope-intercept form because they'll give you something like this. Because you have to know how to put it in slope-intercept form. So looking at this, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So we're trying to isolate y, get y all by itself. So what should I do first? Subtract 5x from both sides. So we have negative 4y is equal to, I'm going to put the negative 5x first so I can have my mx first. So negative 5x plus 16, right? Then from there, to get y alone, divide both sides by negative 4. Alright, so we have y is equal to. From here, I expect you to split it up. So what we're going to do is make sure we divide both things by negative 4. So we have negative 5x divided by negative 4, and then we have plus 16 divided by negative 4. Now I'm showing all my work so that it will help you out. So that simplifies. Y equals a negative divided by a negative. Positive. So we have 5/4 x, and then, good, 16 divided by negative 4, you're right, is negative 4, so it'll be minus 4. We have now written the line in y-intercept form, and now we can graph that easily. Once again, we will never give you at this level a line already like this. Are we all good? Okay. Oh, I didn't answer the question though. It says, what's the slope? So my slope, you guys, this is the important part. My slope is 5/4. And on the end of level test, they might say identify the slope and the y-intercept. And here's the important part. The y-intercept needs to be written as a point. And they would give you that instructions. Write the y-intercept as a point. So think about it, guys. If you were to graph this, wouldn't you go, first we plot our y-intercept. Isn't that down at negative 4? And then we go up 5/4, right? So let's think about it. Our y-intercept is at what x comma y point?
0.
0, negative 4. Very good. So our y-intercept is at 0, negative 4. So this is how I expect to see your answer written. Does that make sense, everybody? Which, guys, that makes sense. Guys, think about it. To find the y-intercept, you always plug in 0 for x, right? So 0, comma, negative 4. But does that make sense? Okay. Do I need to do this one, or do you feel okay to graph it? You got it? You know how to graph a line? Okay, and I won't waste your time. Finish the worksheet.